Welcome back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this one right here. Bring out the brooms. Yes, sir. Bring out the brooms. Dallas Mavericks are on the verge of being swept. Wow. And I think we haven't seen an NBA Finals sweep since LeBron James, right? A guy who got swept 2 times in the finals in more gentlemen sweeps than you can count. Okay? So, look, these are two. I want to say these are going to be two top 100 players because they missed the top 75, but they're going to be top 100 players getting swept in the NBA Finals if it happens. And you got to have a third option. I know we came down on Kyrie those first 2 games that he wasn't putting up numbers. And I can tell you this, I've been watching basketball for a long time. And usually you have a big three, right? They won't say it's a big three, but you'll have a third option that could put points on the board when that second option isn't working, right? Or maybe the first option is kind of off that night. So for instance, you have Duncan, and then you had Parker, and then Ginobili was the third option, right? And good teams like that, they always had really good role players. Really good role players. You talk about Kobe and Shaq, right? Maybe Kobe was off, right? But you had Derek Fisher making big shots. So Derek Fisher probably was your number 3, depending on what year it was. Maybe it was Glenn Rice. Okay. You look at Jordan and Pippen, you had Kukoc or you had Grant, or some nights you had Longley that would come through and hit these clutch shots. I won't say clutch, but be a good role player. Let's see. Or of course you had Horace Grant that would put in 15 points some nights, 12 points. You got to have a number 3 option. You can't you can't win a championship without a steady number 3 option. You just can't do that. And when you look at the Boston Celtics, when they were talking about Porzingis, oh, he might not play. This is the Mavs' opportunity. Well, I don't even think Porzingis was starting in those 2 games. And the dude was coming off the bench, giving it to him. He might have started 1 game. But even when he wasn't on the floor, Boston was running a muck. They didn't need Porzingis. You got 3 great defenders. I would say Tatum is good. I won't say he's great, but he's a good defender. And then you got White, a good defender. You got Drew Holiday, a great defender, and Jaylen Brown, a great defender. And Tatum had a great game, but to me, it's too late. Unless he puts up some crazy triple-double, 40-point, 35-point triple-double in a sweep, that's the only way he's going to win Finals MVP, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, Jaylen Brown, he would have to really stink it up. And for him to stink it up, I don't think they will win. Jaylen Brown has been the best on offense and defense in this series. And you got to take it personal. Great teams take things personal. And the fact that, a lot of people wanted the Mavs to win. You look at, Stephen A. Smith. It looks like he's more mad that the Mavs aren't winning than Boston doing what they got to do. And Boston took it personal about people trash talking them. They didn't play nobody, blah, blah, blah. But hey, they did it. And they still took it personal. That's what a great team's got to do, stuff like that. You got to take it personal. You got to take it personal. And this, it's hard for me to say this is one of the greatest runs of all time because the lack of competition they played with injured star players out. So it'll be one of the great finals if they sweep 2 players that's going to be Hall of Fame players. If you sweep these guys, and I'm talking about they really put them away in every game. I know some of these games they came back and were close, but it's tough in this era with the 3 ball to keep that 10, 20-point lead and keep your foot on the gas. But really, a lot of these games haven't been close. And I know Uncut Hoops, he's going to go back and be so happy today that Jason Tatum had a good game. But guess what, bro? He hadn't been having good games in the finals, the first two finals. And when we go back and look at the other finals that he had, what was that, against Golden State? He bricked it up. So all this bad talking of Tatum was warranted. A bad NBA finals, the last one he was in, and then 2 games in a row. Bad NBA finals, and a lot of the teammates and a lot of people try to make, oh, it's about team, it's about team. That's fine, but you ain't got to stink it up while it's about team. While it's about team, you ain't got to stink it up. And you have other players outplaying you. Now, if you were stinking it up and these dudes weren't outplaying you, yes, I can understand. Yes, he was getting his assists and boards, and look, rebounds in this era, they really mean nothing. Where's your great centers? Where's your great power forwards? Where's everybody battling when the shot goes up? This is what I'm gonna say about the Mavs. And this era continues to get exposed because when the 3 ball isn't falling, or should I say, when these guys aren't wide open to shoot the 3 ball, what can they do then? Excluding Kyrie and Luka. You got all these guys on this team, on the Mavs team, that couldn't hit a damn mid-range if they tried. In the 80s and 90s, that mid-range was prevalent. Everybody killed the mid-range. Centers, power forwards. I don't even think you could make the NBA if you couldn't hit a mid-range. So when the 3 ball isn't hitting, it's really looking bad for this era because it shows me that you can't do nothing but shoot a wide open 3 ball. And when you're not wide open, you're doomed. You're doomed. We saw that a little bit in the last series with the Mavs in Minnesota. That's why Minnesota lost. These guys couldn't hit the mid-range. Only guy I saw hitting the mid-range on Minnesota was, who was Anthony Edwards sometimes. That's about it. You're never going to be an all-time great player to me unless you can hit the mid-range. Because when that 3 ain't falling, or them people ain't leaving you open to shoot the 3, what are you going to do? Can you drive and pull up and hit the mid-range? Can you get the ball off a deflection, a board, and hit the mid-range? Oh, look, man, these guys. Because I'm looking at Tatum. I think he needs to work on his mid-range a little bit more, but he can hit the mid-range. Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Drew, all these guys can hit the mid-range. You only got one go-to shot? Wow. Outside of Luka and Kyrie Irving, none of those guys can hit a mid-range shot. On top of that, the defense has been horrible. Why? Because the Celtics have kept these guys off balance. The Mavs kept them off balance the whole series. So they don't know who to defend, where to defend, how to defend. It's just looking bad. But that number 3 option, who is the number 3 option? Who's the number 3 option when Kyrie is having a bad game? Or when Luka is having a bad game? No wonder Luka is always dribbling the ball and ball hogging. The rest of these guys can't do nothing but shoot a 3. And that's got to be wide open. You telling me these guys are getting paid all this money and they can't do nothing but hit a 3? The guys outside of the star players on these teams, that's all they can do. I could sit at the 3-point line and wait for an open 3 to come open. I could do that. You could do that. That ain't what we seen in the 90s. These guys were shooting the mid-range, shooting the 3, had post games. A lot of runners to the basket. I'm talking about everybody. And you usually wasn't in a starting 5 if you didn't play defense. You just wasn't. I'm just so blown away. Not because the Celtics are doing what they're doing, but I just see that the other Mavs players outside of Luka and Kyrie, they just seem like worthless. They was hitting so many big shots in the Mavs in the Minnesota series. This is why I always said this game is hard to watch because you just got guys camping out at the three, and that's all they can do. So when the three ain't going, what else can you do? Can you drive to the basket, bank it off the backboard? Can you hit a mid range? What can you do? So the Celtics, they're just more battle tested. I wouldn't really say from this year's playoffs, but just from previous years. They these guys have been together a long time. The Tatums and the Browns, and then they get a championship caliber guy who already won a championship, Drew House. It's just a mismatch. The officiating is horrible. It wouldn't be the NBA if it wasn't horrible officiating. I mean, you can't have this stuff, man. Not at moments to where it's the NBA Finals in crucial minutes. Maybe if you look at that, Luka offensive foul or what was it, defensive foul, you can clearly see Jaylen Brown push him. I mean, if he would have just hit Luka and like fell, I could understand that. Okay, defensive foul. But Jaylen Brown pushed the guy. You can see this clear push away on Luka. What is that? What is that? I mean, it's just been awful for these officials in the playoffs. The regular, I don't know what these guys are smoking. 1 minute they're calling carry. Next minute they never call it. They never call carry and travel on any star player. They lit Michael Jordan up just about every time he carried and traveled in the 90s. They lit him up. Just another part of the horrible NBA they got going on. So it's not about, will the Celtics win the championship? It's about what can they keep doing? What can they keep doing in the East? And by the looks of it, I don't think there's really no team out there that can beat them. Who is the team in the East? I just don't see after the performance that the Milwaukee Bucks put on, not even playing in the playoffs for Giannis, and then you got lame time. And you get beat by Indiana. Y'all just stealing money to me. I don't have any faith in the Milwaukee Bucks. Jalen Brunson. Look, man, you just can't go out in that game 7. You just can't do that, man. You just can't do that. If you got to play, Kobe played on a broken finger. If you got to sit out there and pass the damn ball instead of shooting, that's what you got to do. Go talk to Willis Reed. So I can't take the Knicks serious, not over Boston. Of course I can't. For the Pacers, I can't take them serious over Boston. There's the 76ers. Are you kidding me? If they keep this same team together, they can come on back to the championship. And, what Dallas has done as far as representing the West, it's been horrible. It's been horrible. It's been horrible because I think Minnesota would have won more games. I think Denver would have won more games. I think OKC would have won more games. And I don't know about the Lakers. Maybe they would have got you one. I mean, the refs would have got LeBron one. I mean, wow. So most people expected Boston to win. This is no surprise, but in the way they're doing it, I don't know, man. Kyrie better go out like an OG. I can tell you that. Because if he comes out and he poops all over himself in game 4, It don't matter if it's over. But if he poops on himself, I mean, what great player, but that's why this guy isn't or wasn't a top 75 player. Well, I guess he should have been. If you're gonna put Dame Dash in there, I mean Dame Time in there, you got to put him in there. But a lot of these guys are so one dimensional. One dimensional. You take a guy like I just would take Allen Iverson over this guy. I just got to. Allen Iverson didn't play in the no touch era. I mean, he started to in '05, but he didn't start his career like that. And he came into the league with, you know, big man, uh, great centers, great power forwards, um, great small forwards, and just the whole nine at every position. He didn't come into a no touch era. Kyrie's been doing all this stuff in the 210s into the 2020s in a no touch era. So yeah, I definitely would take. You got to look at Allen Iverson's shooting percentage. It ballooned up once they turned it into a no touch era in 2005. Y'all, a lot of people forget that. So imagine Allen Iverson, playing his whole career in a no touch era. Wow. You can't shoot the three. What? I don't understand this whole big three thing. I just don't understand it. If I can give you now in a no touch era 35 points a game with no three, what does that mean? What does that mean? If you go look at some of these box scores, especially at a losing team, and sometimes a winning team, when these guys three ain't hitting, these guys are horrible 3-point shooters. 19%, I mean, for a team. The team will shoot 19%, 20%, 25%, 29% on 30 to 35 shots. So I'd rather take the more efficient shots, driving to the basket or shooting the mid-range. It's ridiculous. And plus those guys in the '90s. That's another thing is you couldn't sit four guys on the 3-point line in the '90s. You know why? It wouldn't work. How are you gonna shoot a three when you're not even wide open? Those guys, when a guy drives the lane with the ball, it's not gonna be another defender collapsing, another 3-point defender collapsing to help his teammate. It's not gonna happen. These guys are better defenders than this era right here. So he's not going to need help. So it's not going to leave a 3-point guy open, and then another guy collapse to get the other 3-point guy that's open with the ball, and then he throws it to the other 3-point guy that's open. It's ridiculous. Nobody's going to leave nobody open in the '90s, and that's why this wouldn't happen. You couldn't have this type of offense in the '90s. It would be laughable. Why are these guys always leaving their guy to help a guy that's driving the lane? It's ridiculous. You're not good enough to defend? No. So you guys tell me what you think, man. I think a lot of people was mad, not because Boston is about to sweep, because we want to see a good series. We want to see a good series, and this is only going to hurt the NBA in ratings. Um, Two great players like this getting swept. Wow, it's not going to help, especially for Luka, who's supposed to be the new face. One of the new faces getting swept. Hmm. Well, they thought maybe the Euros would dominate again. Tell me what you think.